All right, let's go. Number 10, Bakunawa, the moon swallower. Ancient Filipino sailors didn't have sonar, satellites, or submarines, but they had something we don't. They watched the ocean every single day of their lives. And what they described was this: a serpent so massive it could rise from the deep and swallow the moon whole. Not a big snake, not a sea dragon, a creature large enough to darken the sky when it surfaced. Filipino communities across entirely separate islands, with no way to compare notes, all described the same thing: the same enormous mouth, the same slow rise from deep water, the same circling of the coastline before it disappeared back down. Now here's where it gets interesting, because on the other side of the planet, a completely different civilization that had never once spoken to the Philippines was describing the exact same monster. Number 9. Jormungandr, the world serpent. The Norse weren't storytellers sitting around campfires making things up. These were open ocean sailors crossing the North Atlantic in wooden boats, navigating by stars, in waters that would kill you in minutes if you fell in. These were serious people, and what they described was a serpent so incomprehensibly large that it wrapped around the entire ocean and bit its own tail. Sound familiar? Because we just heard it. A massive sea serpent rising from the deep, circling endlessly. The Philippines described it. Now Scandinavia is describing it. Two civilizations separated by thousands of miles of ocean, with zero contact, zero shared language, zero trade routes. Same creature, same shape, same behavior. You could call that a coincidence. But here's the thing about coincidences. They get a lot harder to believe when they keep happening. And we're only on number 9. Number 8. Leviathan. Ancient Hebrew texts describe a primordial sea monster so terrifying it predates most of recorded scripture. This fear is old, older than most religions, and the description is specific. Armored scales that can't be pierced, breath that literally boils the water around it, eyes that glow like the first light of dawn, not vague, not symbolic, specific, physical, detailed. Now we have 3 completely isolated civilizations: the Philippines, Scandinavia, and ancient Hebrew culture spanning the Middle East, all describing the same basic creature, same enormous scale, same deep water origin, same sense that whatever this thing is, it existed before we did. And here's what shifts the tone slightly. When one culture describes a monster, that's folklore. When 2 do it, that's coincidence. When 3 completely isolated civilizations, separated by entire oceans, describe the same creature independently, that's not a story anymore, that's a pattern. And the pattern is just getting started. Number 7, Ciaran Croin. Scottish Gaelic fishermen described a creature so enormous it ate 7 whales for a single meal. Not 7 fish, 7 whales. Let that sink in for a second. A blue whale is the largest animal ever confirmed to exist on this planet, the size of a commercial airplane, weighing up to 200 tons. This thing ate 7 of them and was still hungry. But the detail that really gets under your skin isn't the size. It's this: sailors described it rising so slowly and so steadily that it looked exactly like an island surfacing from the water. Flat, solid, still. People reportedly stepped onto its back before it submerged. They thought they'd found land. Then the land moved. Now we have 4 civilizations: Philippines, Scandinavia, ancient Hebrew culture, and the Scottish Highlands, all describing the same basic creature. Different languages, different oceans, same monster. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a pattern. Number 6. El Gran Maja. Deep in South American indigenous tradition lives a colossal water serpent haunting the mouths of rivers and coastal waters. Enormous, serpentine, and associated with one thing above everything else: people disappearing. Now remember where we are in this list. We've got the Philippines, Scandinavia, ancient Hebrew texts, the Scottish Highlands, and now South America. 5 civilizations, 5 completely separate corners of the world. No shared language, no trade routes, no missionaries passing stories between them. And every single one of them looked at the ocean and described the same creature, same scale, same shape, same behavior. At some point you have to stop calling it mythology and start asking what these people actually saw. Because here's the thing. These weren't poets or priests writing fairy tales. These were coastal people whose survival depended on knowing exactly what was in the water. So that's the myth. Now meet the sailors who stopped calling it that. Number 5, Umabozu. Japanese sailors had a word for it. That alone should tell you something. You don't name something that doesn't exist. Umabozu, the sea monk, an enormous shadowy figure rising silently from completely calm water. No storm, no warning, just stillness, and then something coming up from below. And here's the detail that separates this from every ghost story you've ever heard. Japanese fishing communities didn't tell this around campfires. They logged it, passed it ship to ship like a navigation warning. Same way you'd warn someone about a shallow reef or a dangerous current. This was practical information. Stay away from this stretch of water on calm nights. And notice that part, calm nights. Not storms, not rough seas. Calm water means visibility, clear skies, good conditions. These sailors saw it clearly, in good light, and they were still terrified. That's not superstition, that's a witness report. Number 4, Isonade. No dramatic surfacing, no massive shadow rising from below. Isonade didn't give you that. What Japanese coastal sailors described was worse. A huge fish-like creature with a single enormous hook-shaped tail that broke the waterline just long enough to snag someone off the deck and pull them under. No warning, no sound. 1 second someone was there, the next they weren't. And the really unsettling part isn't the creature itself, it's the location. Sailors didn't report this everywhere. They reported it consistently along specific coastal routes. Same stretches of water, same spots. Whatever this was, it lived somewhere. It had territory. Now here's where it gets harder to dismiss. Modern marine biology has confirmed deep-sea species with tails capable of generating extraordinary force. The mechanism the sailors described isn't fantasy. It's just biology we hadn't documented yet. They weren't inventing the story. They were surviving it. Number 3, the Kraken. Yeah, you've heard the name. But here's what you probably don't know. Norse and North Atlantic sailors described a creature that surfaced like an island, sound familiar, and then dragged entire ships underwater with its arms. For centuries, scientists called it fiction, a sailor's exaggeration, a bedtime story for people who'd been at sea too long. Then, in the 1800s, giant squid specimens started washing ashore, 40 feet long, eyes the size of dinner plates, rotating hooks on their tentacles instead of suckers. The sailors weren't exaggerating. They were underreporting. But here's the part that should actually keep you up at night. Every specimen ever recovered has been juvenile, not fully grown, juvenile. Scientists have never caught a fully grown colossal squid, not once. We have no idea how large they actually get. The sailors described something that capsized ships. We haven't found anything that big yet. That doesn't mean it isn't there. Number 2, Lusca. The Caribbean has its own monster, and this one comes with an address. Blue holes, vertical underwater caves scattered across the Bahamas that drop hundreds of feet straight down into pure darkness. Locals described Lusca as half shark, half octopus, lurking at the bottom and pulling things down. Divers who've gone in report the same thing independently. Powerful suction currents dragging them downward with no obvious source. Several divers have gone in and never come back out. No equipment recovered. No explanation. Marine biologists have confirmed that unusually large octopus species do inhabit blue holes. How large exactly? That's where it gets uncomfortable, poorly documented, meaning we genuinely don't know. The half-shark description might just be a massive octopus mantle misread in low visibility. Same shape, wrong label. And here's the thing. Most blue holes haven't been fully explored. Whatever is at the bottom, we haven't actually looked yet. Number 1, the bloop. In 1997, NOAA hydrophones, the same equipment designed to track Soviet submarines, picked up a sound. Not an interesting sound, not an unusual sound. The loudest, unidentified sound ever recorded in human history. Louder than a blue whale, louder than anything we have ever confirmed to be alive. It traveled thousands of miles across the ocean from a single origin point, the deep South Pacific, one of the least explored, least mapped regions on the entire planet. Scientists eventually attributed it to icequake activity, but the original analysts weren't convinced. Because the sound had something geological noise doesn't have biological rhythm, the same pattern living creatures produce. No visual, no follow-up detection, just an audio file sitting in a government database right now with no confirmed source. Here's what you need to remember. Every single creature on this list was called a myth first. The bloop was recorded. It exists. We just don't know what made it.